Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Hidebound Convivium. It is a beautiful Monday morning. It is November the 22nd of 2021, and we are back today reading some Old English poetry, Beowulf Part 3 in particular. And I decided to break this book up into shorter parts than I've been doing, so I'm going to shoot for a much smaller section of the epic in this reading, and hopefully we can talk a little bit about the thematic elements at play in this element. Most importantly, you're going to hear a story about a Norse hero, Sigemund, who was famous for slaying a dragon. It's not really much of a story, it's more of a summary of a story that's occurring within the story. And he is contrasted with Helamod, I believe that's his name, Heremod, sorry, who's a proverbial weak or bad king. So this is going to foreshadow both Beowulf's ultimate triumph of slaying the dragon and presage his future role as king of the Geats. So, without further ado, let us dive right into the story. Just to give a quick recap, Beowulf has already slain the monster Grendel, and so we are at the section where there is much feasting and joy and gladness. And one of Hrothgar's thanes, who brimmed with poetry and remembered lays, has stood up to tell a fitting tale, according to the speaker of the poem. He recounted all he knew of Sigemund, the son of Wales, many a strange story about his exploits, his endurance, and his journeys to earth's end, many an episode unknown or half-known to the sons of men, songs of feud and treachery. Only Fitela knew of these things, had heard them from Sigemund, who liked to talk of this and that, for he and his nephew had been companions in countless battles. So again, this is a reference to a mythical hero, Sigemund, and his wife, I believe, Fitela. So they're getting written into this story as real characters, basically, because this Thane is saying that he heard these stories from Sigemund's wife. They slew many monsters with their swords. After his death, no little fame attached to Sigemund's name when the courageous man had killed the dragon, guardian of the horde. Under the gray rock, the son of the prince braved that dangerous deed alone. Fitela was not with him. For all that, as fate had it, he impaled the wondrous serpent, pinned it to the rock face with his patterned sword. The dragon was slain. Through his own bravery, that warrior ensured that he could enjoy the treasure hoard at will. The son of Wales loaded it all onto a boat, stowed the shining treasure into the ship. The serpent burned in its own flames. Because of all his exploits, Sigemund, guardian of strong men, was the best-known warrior in the world. So greatly had he prospered. After Heremod's prowess, strength and daring had been brought to an end, when, battling with giants, he fell into the power of fiends and was at once done to death. He had long endured surging sorrows, had become a source of grief to his people, and to all his retainers, and indeed in those times now almost forgotten, many wise men often mourned that great warrior, for they had looked to him to remedy their miseries. They thought that the prince's son would prosper and attain his father's rank, would protect his people, their heirlooms, and their citadel, the hero's kingdom, land of the Scyldings. Beowulf, Higelac's kinsman, was much loved by all who knew him, by his friends. But Heremod was stained by sin. Now and then the brave men raced their horses and ate up the sandy tracks, and they were so absorbed that the hours passed easily. Stout-hearted warriors without number traveled to the high hall to inspect that wonder, the king himself, too glorious Hrothgar, guardian of the ring hoards, came from his quarters with a great company, escorted his queen and her retinue of maidens into the mead hall. Hrothgar spoke. He approached Heorot, stood on the steps, stared at the high roof, adorned with gold, and at Grendel's hand. Let us give thanks at once to God Almighty for this sight. I have undergone many afflictions, grievous outrages at Grendel's hands, but God, guardian of heaven, can work wonder upon wonder. Until now I had been resigned, had no longer believed that my afflictions would ever end. This finest of buildings stood stained with battle blood, a source of sorrow to my counselors, and they all despaired of regaining this hall for many years to come, of guarding it from foes, from devils and demons. Yet now one warrior alone, through the Almighty's power, has succeeded where we failed for all our fine plans. Indeed, if she is still alive, that woman, whoever she was, who gave birth to such a son, to be one of humankind, may claim that the Creator was gracious to her in her childbearing. Now, Beowulf, best of men, I will love you in my heart like a son. Keep to our new kinship from this day on. You shall lack no earthly riches I can offer you. Most often I have honored a man for less, given treasure to a poorer warrior, more sluggish in the fight. Through your deeds you have ensured that your glorious name will endure forever. May the Almighty grant you good fortune, as he has always done before. Beowulf, the son of Egethau, answered, We performed that dangerous deed with good will. At peril we pitted ourselves against the unknown. I wish so much that you could have seen him for yourself, that fiend in his trappings in the throes of death. I meant to throttle him on the bed of slaughter as swiftly as possible, with savage grips, to hear death rattle in his throat because of my grasp, unless he should escape me. But I could not detain him. The Lord did not ordain it. I did not hold my deadly enemy firm enough for that. The fiend jerked free with immense power. Yet so as to save his life he left behind his hand, his arm and shoulder. But the wretched monster has bought himself scant respite. The evil marauder, tortured by his sins, will not live the longer, but agony embraces him in its deadly bonds, squeezes life out of his lungs, and now this creature, stained with crime, must await the day of judgment and his just deserts from the glorious Creator. After this, the son of Ecglaf boasted less about his prowess in battle, when all the warriors, through Beowulf's might, had been enabled to examine that hand, the fiend's fingers nailed up on the gables. Seen from in front, each nail, each claw of that warlike heathen monster looked like steel, a terrifying spike. Everyone said that no weapon whatsoever, no proven sword, could possibly harm it, could damage that battle-hardened, blood-stained hand. Then orders were quickly given for the inside of Heorot to be decorated. Many servants, both men and women, bustled about the wine hall, adorned that building of retainers. Tapestries worked in gold glittered on the walls, many a fine sight for those who have eyes to see such things. That beautiful building, braced within by iron bands, was badly damaged. The door's hinges were wrenched, when the monster, damned by all his crimes, turned in flight, despairing of his life. The hall roof only remained untouched. Death is not easy to escape. Let him who will attempt it. Man must go to the grave that awaits him. Fate has ordained this for all who have souls, children of men, earth's inhabitants, and his body, rigid on its clay bed, will sleep there after the banquet. Then it was time for Healfdene's son to proceed to the hall, for King himself was eager to attend the feast. I have never heard of a greater band of kinsmen gathered with such dignity around their ring-giver. Then the glorious warriors sat on the benches, rejoicing in the feast. Courteously their kinsmen Hrothgar and Hrothulf quaffed many a mead cup, confident warriors in the high hall. Heorot was packed with feasters who were friends. The time was not yet come when the Scyldings practiced wrongful deeds. Then Hrothgar gave Beowulf Healfdene's sword, and a battle banner woven with gold, and a helmet and a corselet as rewards for victory. Many men watched while the priceless, renowned sword was presented to the hero. Beowulf emptied the ale cup in the hall. He had no cause to be ashamed at those precious gifts. There are few men, as far as I have heard, who have given 4 such treasures, gleaming with gold, to another on the mead bench with equal generosity. A jutting ridge, wound about with metal wires, ran over the helmet's crown, protecting the skull, so that the well-ground swords proven in battle could not injure the well-shielded warrior when he advanced against his foes. And the guardian of Thanes ordered that 8 horses with gold-plated bridles be led into the courtyard. Onto one was strapped a saddle inlaid with jewels, skillfully made. That was the war seat of the great king, Healfdene's son, whenever he wanted to join in the sword play. That famous man never lacked bravery at the front in battle, when men about him were cut down like corn. Then the king of the Danes, Ing's descendants, presented the horses and weapons to Beowulf, bade him use them well and enjoy them. Thus the renowned prince, the retainer's gold warden, rewarded those fierce sallies in full measure with horses and treasure, so that no man would ever find reason to reproach him fairly. Furthermore, the guardian of warriors gave a treasure, an heirloom at the mead bench, to each of those men who had crossed the sea with Beowulf, and he ordered that gold be paid for the warrior Grendel slew so wickedly, as he would have slain many another, had not foreseeing God and the warrior's courage together forestalled him. The Creator ruled over all humankind, even as he does today. Wherefore a wise man will value forethought and understanding. Whoever lives long on earth, endures the unrest of these times, will be involved in much good and much evil. Then Hrothgar, leader in battle, was entertained with music, harp and voice in harmony. The strings were plucked, many a song rehearsed, and when it was the turn of Hrothgar's poet to please men at the mead bench, perform in the hall, he sang of Finn's troop, victims of surprise attack, and of how that Danish hero, nephew of the Scyldings, was destined to die among the Frisians slain. And that's where we're going to close out for today, because that prompts another digression in the story. So these are sections of the story that are often skipped over in high school and even college courses. But I think from a storytelling perspective, and of course if I'm recording an audiobook, why would I not talk about these things? From a storytelling perspective, these are important parts, because these stories, these digressive stories in the middle of the poem help to illuminate and draw out parallels in the story of Beowulf as part of an epic tradition. And more than that as well, I think it also draws out and illustrates some of the major themes of the work, especially the scenes with all the gift giving that get glossed over. There's a lot of really important implications, as I touched on in my last video, about the social structure of the Anglo-Saxon world and how it's portrayed in the poem. But in the interest of keeping things short and sweet, I think that's where we're going to pause for right now. And in the future, not only are we going to pick up with Beowulf, but I'm also wanting to devote a separate video just to talking about the issue of Christianity and its influence and implications on the poem, because I've been listening a lot recently in the past 7 months since I've recorded Beowulf parts. I've listened a lot to these universal history podcasts that have been on Jonathan Peugeot's channel, and I think there are some comments and themes that have been drawn out in those conversations that are actually very interesting to apply to the story of Beowulf. So I'm intrigued to maybe talk about some of those themes in a later video. But for right now, keeping it short and sweet, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. So for today, this has been the Hidebound Convivium. God bless, and have a good rest of your day.